All right, we had our overreaction video already. What are the positive takeaways from Saturday's game against Old Dominion? All that and an interview with Aaron Murray, who was on the call in Williams-Brice. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome in to Locked On Gamecocks. I am your host, Chris Marler. It is great to have you along. I appreciate you guys joining us for another recap of Saturday's game. We've now watched it twice, 2.5 times, really. And there's some more positive takeaways to have, but we will get into that and more. I want to give you a huge shout out and say thank you to our everyday listeners. Thank you for making Locked On Gamecocks our first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your pods, as well as on YouTube as well, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar, a convenient portable size. It is the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used in other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Now, like I said, we have a fun episode now. We're going to have some positive takeaways. We got like our negative overreaction from the Saturday's game against Old Dominion. We did it in the last episode. Got a ton of feedback from you guys in the comments. We appreciate all that as well. We're going to sit down with Aaron Murray, who was on the call. It's a former Georgia quarterback, but he was in Williams-Brice covering the game for SC Network on Saturday. So we're going to get his takeaways as well. So this is that interview with Aaron. All right, we're here joined with a former rival of South Carolina, but also somebody who does a tremendous job with the color commentary from the game on Saturday. And, you know, Aaron, I was joking around earlier. I was like, it's wild because we talked before the game and it was like, hey, you know, here's some other talking points. And here's because you know, like filling 4 hours of airtime is not easy. It takes a very skilled person to do it. It seemed like Shane Beamer did you a favor maybe on Saturday and gave you a very close game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did as much homework as I could, obviously talking to you as well, like you alluded to. Like, okay, if things get a little sideways in the second half, I better know some stories about, you know, what so-and-so likes to eat or what so-and-so's been doing in the offseason. Like, really going in depth in the bios, talking with some people. So extremely well prepared. Did not think that we would have a 4-quarter battle that was going to take 2 turnovers inside the 10-yard line for South Carolina to score touchdowns in order to win versus ODU. So I think, you know, when you do step away from it, the one thing you walk away is saying is, one, we won the game. You know, you always say, I would rather coach hard and be a little disappointed a win than a loss. So, like, at least we can get into the meeting room and figure out what the heck went wrong and still know that we're 1-0 heading into week 2. And he also, too, Beamer let us know this plenty of times in the meetings, and not that he wasn't preparing us and he wasn't trying to make any excuses, but it was just the honest facts. Like, hey, we have 1 starter on offense returning. We got a bunch of young guys. We have a bunch of transfers at the receiving position, at the running back position. We're going to be playing some freshmen. We have a quarterback that just turned 19 years old 3 months ago. So, like, a lot of new and a lot of obviously high expectations for LaNorris and company. So let's just say got a lot of that rust knocked off of new faces, and you walked out of there with a win, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things like a win is a win is a win. That's fine. But I think like it really took me a minute to let it sink in. It was like, damn, they won this game by 4 points. Yeah. And they got 2 turnovers inside the 10-yard line, which is like kudos to defense. I do want to talk about the offense and Sellers mainly because I know that's obviously your forte and where you were, and all-time SEC leading passer. Let's not leave that out. But at the same time, when you talk about like the defense being great, that means like the offense did struggle a lot, man. And Sellers, I kept trying to figure out, like, all right, where do you go with the blame? Because the play calling looks pretty bad, in my opinion. It was like, it just felt very, very vanilla. And I don't know if that's because you don't have a grasp of the entire playbook yet, or if it's just because you're new, or if he's just nervous. But then you also think about the very first play of the game was like an RPO to get him out in space and just dump off a pass, and he kept it. So it's like, What did you notice that, like, was it nerves? Is it just like he's not there yet? Or like, what was your main takeaway from Sellers throughout the game?
Obviously, there's a little bit of nerves, and you talk to people inside the building, and they're like, "Man, how mature of a kid he is, how prepared he is, how much Spencer took him under his wing a year ago to help him prepare for this year." So, like, all the positives, like he is ready, he understands everything. He's a guy that makes a mistake once and never makes it again, like that type of athlete back there at the quarterback position. But to me, it was a guy that was at times trying to do too much.
Right.
A guy at times that just wasn't taking the easy completion. And there's a million guys doing that too. I mean, I just did a breakdown of Jalen Milroe from his first game with the new coordinator there at Alabama under Kalen DeBoer, and he was doing similar stuff too. Just trying to get big plays on the field at times, not taking the check down. So like everyone, trust me, I did it too. Part of the reason why I got cut from the Kansas City Chiefs after my third year, like I was trying to create home runs instead of just taking the simple check down. So like that's something you really don't know until you go back and watch the tape and say, okay, I ran this play. And let's not forget too, like ODU is facing or running this 3-2-6 defense. You don't see that defense in the SEC.
No, not at all.
Visually for a quarterback, because I faced it a couple times, visually for a quarterback, it's different. You're not used to seeing three safeties back there that are eyes downhill, ready to go there and fill the run lanes as well. So like you're not going to have to face that unique defense the rest of the year. You're going to face more of that 4-2, 4-2-5, two safeties look, one safety look kind of thing. So, I'll kind of give that excuse for him too. But for him, it's all going to be about just taking completions going forward.
Right.
This is an offense that, take some shots when they're there, but they're going to move the ball methodically down the field. They're going to have to run it. But before you and I started this whole thing, I still think the biggest thing for him is he needs some support, man.
Yeah.
Like, are there going to be some receivers that are going to step up and make plays? And I didn't see one receiver that I could say like that's going to be a dude in third down or red zone situations that we can hang our hat on. That's going to go out there and make plays.
So that was going to be my next question. And here's the thing, man. I hate to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to, and because it's like also part of the overreaction of what we saw in week one. Like, if there's the receivers, there was no separation, there was no creativity in the route running or in like the play design. It felt like everything just, again, it felt very, very vanilla. And you could say like, well, you want to make sure you don't put too much on tape for Kentucky. And then you're like, dude, at some point you got to go win a ball game, right? Like because it's not like Beamer Newton's back pocket. They were going to turn over the ball again inside their own 10. So I just have to wonder, like, where is Nick Harbor? And what could be happening if Nick Harbor is not separating himself in that bunch after what we saw against the secondary at ODU? I get the 3-2-6 thing, but it's like you still should have been that.
There were some missed opportunities, though. There were some missed opportunities. Like one, not on him necessarily. I mean, there was one high ball that. I mean, it's kind of hard to overthrow a guy that's 6'5".
That was tough, yeah. And
the ball was over his head. And there's another one that I talked about during the broadcast where he had a post route, and it's one-on-one. The safety jumped, I think, the number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
And you got an Olympic sprinter running a post route that you just got to throw it as far as you can and let him go catch it. It's like those are the missed opportunities of, like, it felt like every time that LaNorris needed to check the ball down based on the coverage, he wanted to take a shot. Then every time that they did give him an opportunity to take a shot, he didn't see it and he didn't make the play. So like it works hand in hand. Like the receivers have to be better. LaNorris has to get them the ball. How many times did he overthrow guys where you're seeing a receiver jump up or a tight end jump up or a running back jump up, and he has to be more accurate, whether it's on the run or inside the pocket. And then, like I said, those guys got to make plays. So like I'm with you. Like Nick Harbor has to make plays, but you got to put him in a position to make plays, and you got to throw the ball down the field for him. And then the guy that I covered at Coastal, who I was excited to be on, watch him, Jared Brown. Like, just give him jet sweeps, give him screens, like just give him the ball in space, and put him in Wildcat. I don't really care. Just like give him the ball in unique ways to make defenses say, "Where's 14? Where is he in motion? Is he in the backfield?" Like he's just such a fun gadget player, and I just feel like you didn't really, South Carolina did not really use him. I know he got banged up, did not really use him in that fashion here in the first game versus Old Dominion. That may be something like, once again, maybe they're going to hide that for week 2. I don't know. But it would be nice to see him get some more touches as well.
Honestly, the last thing I'll say, too, is that I think, like, because there's no way you went into this game plan thinking, all right, we're going to run LaNorris 20 times. There's just no way. I don't think that you were ever going to plan on doing that. So part of me likes the fact that it's like, if I'm trying to be positive and spin this in a positive way, it's like, man, that's a great job by sticking with LaNorris. And he did go out and make enough plays, I guess, at some point to win you a game. But it still feels like there was a lot more negative from this one. And listen, maybe this is
definitely a lot more negative.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more negative.
Let's just be honest. Like, this was not the the home state kid that was committed to Syracuse and decommitted and stayed home and had some big plays last year. We illustrated that in the Open, like the big throw and the big run and all the excitement and yada yada yada. This was very anticlimactic of a start, and you know what? Once again, like, you still won the game, so it doesn't matter how you start; it's how you finish. So we always talk about, like, you take a big step from year 1 to year 2. Well, you also take a big step from week 1 to week 2 as well. Like, there's a lot of nerves. Like, I don't care that you're playing ODU. I don't. It's at home. I get all that. The next week you're going to be playing at Kentucky, so that's a whole new set of issues that you're going to have to face. But like, playing your first collegiate football game is still a really big deal. And to be able to, like, walk out there and say, check, I did that, got that off my chest, and now I can kind of just like breathe a little bit. I'm not saying like LaNorris is going to go out there and throw for 3 touchdowns and run for 100 yards next week versus Kentucky on the road, a very good football team, a very good defense. But hopefully he just continues to build, because he is super talented. There's no doubt about it. He's talented as hell. It's just he got to get the reps.
I agree, man. Well, listen, dude, I appreciate it. I know you've had a long weekend. You had to drive back to Columbia, been back to Atlanta and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you joining us. We'll have to do it again at some point during the season. Next time you're on the call and I'm back in Columbia, we'll have to go out and get I don't know if I say beers on this podcast or not, but we'll have to get beers like that. It's a very family friendly. We'll have to go out and get some water or some 5-Hour Energies as our ad sponsor. There you go.
Well, I appreciate having me on. Happy to join anytime. And don't mind going to Columbia, man. It was a good time. Hopefully a little bit better game next time. For some reason, man, like, I'm 0-2 in the stadium. Then at least I called. It was a decent game to call, not as expected. But I'm 0-3 with going into Williams-Brice Stadium with a certain expectation of what's going to happen.
The expectations have to be better.
Yeah, and now my expectations have not been met, so I'm 0-3, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's just set that bar lower. I lived my whole life on that. So.
Exactly.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. We'll get at you soon.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, we appreciate Aaron coming on, and we are going to move into our next part of the show and talk about some more positive takeaways from the South Carolina Old Dominion game before we start getting into the week ahead and Kentucky and all that good stuff. We've given it 48 hours, right? We've watched the tape at least 2 or 3 times, sadly to say, and there are some positive takeaways, so we will get to them as well. Before we do, I want to give you guys a quick shout out to our good friends here at the Ultimate Head Football Head Coach. It is a new and exciting game that you can get in your App Store or Google Play Store, whichever one. But let me tell you something right now. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's called Ultimate College Football Coach. It is in this amazing game and simulation. You can step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of South Carolina? Some of you might get a chance to do that in the next couple of years. You never know. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about this game. You are responsible for the offensive play calling during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free. It has no ads and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want, when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Gamecock fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, and it'll help get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the App Store. That's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, make sure you stick around. We will be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks. All right, we are back. So let's get into some more positive stuff. All right, I know that we had an episode where I just had my overreaction from ODU and the game that was, and I think there was a lot of fair things that we said in that video. It was there's a lot, I think, that when you look at some of the things that the offense did or was not able to do, there are some problems there. So, but if we're looking at the positive takeaways, the more I look at it, the more people I talk to, we talked about with Aaron Murray, obviously earlier, the more people that were around the situation at the game itself, a very disjointed game, right? Like a very disjointed game. You had a rain delay, which seemed to be a theme all weekend. I don't know why, across college football, but you had a very disjointed game with that. Then you had a situation where your quarterback came out. I just don't believe that the game plan ever was going to be, hey, let's run the ball with LaNorris 20 times in that game. Maybe if you were preserving a lead late, that would make more sense. But I don't think that that's what the plan was at any point going into that game. I think you absolutely wanted to get more people involved, whether it was in the passing game, whether it was in the running game, or whatever. I think that the biggest takeaway I have for what I saw, and I'm not trying to make excuses for this team, I'm not trying to make excuses for any of the players, but the more I look at it, the more I just think that, like, man, LaNorris looked just nervous, like just nervous. And you think that with more experience that's going to come along with playing this position, the more he's going to be able to go out there and just cut it loose. And that's what you were hoping to see in game one, him being a little bit more calm. I had a friend of mine text me earlier today as we're recording this saying, what if we just invested in getting him some beta blockers or something like that to help, she was saying how it helps her when she's got to give a speech or something like that, to not be nervous. I don't know. I don't know what the move is, but I do think that the takeaway I keep having when I look at it, you talk about the overthrows, you talk about like the indecision, and the hesitation, especially when it came to his decision making. I think that was the thing that stuck out to me the most, which was he just looked nervous. He just didn't look like himself. He just did not look like himself. And I know that we've only had a very small sample size of what LaNorris can be, but it's better than that. It's better than that. We had to come out with our quarterback rankings from my other job today. And I'll be honest, I had LaNorris last in the SEC after his performance. And you guys can get mad about that all you want. If you want, I don't think that's where he ends up, but if it's on a week-to-week basis, it's really hard to look at every other quarterback around the league and think, yeah, LaNorris outperformed him, because he didn't. 10 of 23 passing, 20 carries for like 60-something yards. I just feel like the ceiling is still so high for this kid. And I do think that he's got some talent around him and they will get this figured out. But after game one, it's very hard to argue that he, as one of the 16 starters in the conference, didn't have the worst performance in week one. And that's fine. Like, it's one game. It's one game. So that was one of my takeaways. The other takeaway I had was, from a positive standpoint, the defense, you do have to tip your cap to the defense. One of the stats I brought in that I thought was crazy going into the season was with the turnovers that Carolina was being able to force. Like, they led the conference in forced turnovers over the last 3 seasons, right? That's I think it was like 63 or 64 total turnovers, something like that. That's an incredible job. And I think with this defense, one of the things that stood out the most was they had so many turnovers that were forced inside the red zone, which is like, that's hard to replicate. It's very hard to replicate. Hold on, I'm pulling this up right now. Very hard to replicate, but they go out in game one, and lo and behold, you did go out there and force 4 turnovers. And I know I brought up the fact that you were able to do it inside the red zone in a couple. The fact that you were able to do it inside the 10-yard line, like the defense won this game. And that's one of the things, if you're trying to be positive and figure out where to go move forward, the defense is going to go out there and have to win you some games early until LaNorris Sellers gets settled down and is able to get through some of these early season jitters that we've already seen rear their ugly head against Old Dominion. Now, again, I'm not sitting here trying to make a bunch of excuses for Sellers, because I think if he plays like this and Dowell Loggins doesn't figure out a way to start using and utilizing his strengths a little bit more, but again, it does fall on Sellers. If he plays like this moving forward, this is not going to be a bowl eligible team. This is a 5-win team at best if he plays like he did against Old Dominion. I don't expect that to be the case, but let's call a spade a spade. And that's what that will be. That is what that will look like if it continues. But the defense itself, man, the defense was very, very good. It was just very, very good. I saw somebody talk about this the other day. I think it was Emmanuel Acho. Love him or hate him or anything in between. I'm very indifferent. But like, he brought up the fact that he played on a Texas team that went like 5-7. They had the number 6 overall defense in the country. I don't think this defense is going to be the 6th overall best defense in the country. But man, you look at what they were able to do in game 1. They did hold Old Dominion to around 300 yards. They did force 4 turnovers. They made plays when they needed them most. They held them to like around 5 yards per attempt, which is really good. On the other hand, it sucks because South Carolina averaged even less. It was a 5 yards attempt exactly. So I think those are some things that you want to see shaped up a little bit. But they did a really good job stopping the run. Right around 3.2 yards per rush allowed. That's better than they've had in the years past. So that's that part is great. I think that for me, what I want to see moving forward is, well, would love to see them start 2-0, and we'll get to the Kentucky breakdown this week. But I want to start seeing some receivers get some separation. I want to see LaNorris start feeling like a little bit more calm. And you don't want to feel like this defense is going to have to like shoulder the entire load. But if we are being overly positive, and I will do it for this particular episode, if we're being overly positive, if you force 4 turnovers at Kentucky, you're going to probably win that game too. So can the defense carry you until he gets settled down? Maybe. I don't know. You hope you don't have to put all that pressure on them, but it seems like at least so far they have been able to rise to the occasion and be okay. Now, before we close out our last part of the show, I do want to tell you about our good friends at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy helped get me through the rewatch, to be honest. Multiple times watching the replay of the game against Old Dominion. But listen, 5 Hour Energy is the perfect little sidekick if you are trying to go get a workout in, if you're tired after lunch, if you need to tackle a to-do list. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take 5 Hour Energy Shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home. That's when you get your supplies for the project. Do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5 Hour Energy Shot. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you saw me give a glare to my girlfriend, and she makes a ton of to-do lists for me, which we love to do. So there's that. Listen, zero sugar, convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst. Those are my 2 personal favorite. Grape, berry, and more and more and more. Try them all. Go to the site. If you have the option on the site, you can actually build your own 12 or 24 pack and choose whatever flavors you want. Remember, that is go to the site. It is number 5hourenergy.com and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB and receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com. All right, longest ad read ever. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back in, guys. And we're going to close out the positive reaction to the show. Obviously, it's Tuesday, so we are now in Kentucky game week. We'll start looking ahead here shortly and looking at the games. And I know there's a lot of people that are pretty pissed about the way that game went. And I do want to remind you one thing. This Old Dominion team, yes, they were 6-7 last year. Yes, they only have one winning season in the since 2014, I believe, when they joined FBS. And that was in 2016 when they won 10 games. But they have made a bowl 2 of the last 3 years. They just finished 6-7. It's been a good program, and they've played Power 4 opponents very close. They've played 4 of them over the past couple of years. They have won 1, and then the other 3, 2 of those games were decided by 3 points or less. So this is not anything new to them. I think it's a throwaway game where you have to look at the tape, obviously, and figure out where you improve. But also, maybe you also just throw this one in the bin if you're LaNorris or if you're any of those receivers and think, all right, we know we're better than that. We know we're capable of way more than that. And moving forward, we're going to go out there and show it. You're going to a Kentucky team that is a very, very good and physical team. This is something I told you guys last night or probably about a couple months ago when I started doing the show. I think this is going to be a good benchmark for this team. Honestly, I love the fact that you're going into it where no one's going to believe in you after what happened against Old Dominion. I think that only helps South Carolina, to be honest. You're playing a Kentucky team that is coming off their first game against Southern Miss, and Southern Miss goes in there completely overmatched. Kentucky wins 31-0. The game was actually called midway through the third because of also lightning and rain and weather delays that they had, like I said, just kind of plagued a lot of games around the Southeast, especially all weekend. You're going on the road to Kentucky, a place that you won last time you were there, right? 24-14 with Spencer Rattler. This is a gettable game, and they're going to have to figure out what kind of advantages they can find with a defense that is, like I said, turnover prone and opportunistic. Here's the one positive thing I will say about where I think South Carolina has an advantage in this game, because there are some concerns when you look at it. Like up front, I mean, Deion Walker, as my grandpa would say, ate your lunch last year. I mean, Deion Walker had like 9 tackles, multiple tackles for loss. Like he was in the backfield all day. I think he had like 8 solo tackles or something crazy. He is possibly the best defensive tackle in the country and will be a very, very difficult matchup for the interior offensive line from guard to guard against South Carolina on Saturday. That being said, one of the things that I think South Carolina does have an advantage on, if you talk about just from a number standpoint, I brought it up earlier, they have led the SEC in turnovers forced over the last 3 seasons, like 64. Starting quarterbacks for Kentucky over the last 3 years. Will Levis had 2 years there, and then you had Devin Leary last year. You have Brock Vandagriff now, a kid from Georgia that transferred in, former 5-star. Going into the season, their starting quarterbacks combined for 35 interceptions over the last 3 years. By far the most in the conference. 35 over the last 3 years. And, you know, in the first quarter of this game, in Brock Vandagriff's first career start at Kentucky, he throws a pick. So the number only climbs. There are going to be opportunities for South Carolina to win this game. I think it would have to be an ugly, ugly game. You're going to have to figure out creative ways to get the run game going. I think, honestly, east to west might be your best option, trying to get them spread out and try to go sideline to sideline, because they are really, really good up front. I've said this before. They returned 6 of their front 7. The only person they don't have returning from last year's front 7, which is already pretty good, was Dumas Johnson, the linebacker, is a former All-American from Georgia. That's a kid that started 24 games at Georgia, had one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best defense. That is going to be a very, very big issue if you're trying to run between the tackles. And we've seen South Carolina being able to have some success with it, but not a ton. And so I think that you're going to have to find creative ways to get the ball moving. And I think going east to west and kind of stretching this defense out is one of those ways to do it. The other one is trying to figure out chunk plays with Andrevius Jacobs and these receivers. I think this could be a game where, and this is going to sound odd, but like Kentucky has the best cornerback arguably in the conference, right? They have, I think it's Harrison. He led the conference in picks last year. Let me pull this up, make sure I'm being right, because I know somebody will correct me in the comments if I'm not. But this is a team that does play a very physical style of offense and defense, honestly. And I think when you're trying to figure out a way to get anything going, especially with Sellers, one of the ways to do that is to attack them, for lack of better words, horizontally instead of north and south. Not ideal, but it's also something that, it was Harrison. I was right. There we go. Maxwell Harrison, right? He's a projected early round pick. It's a guy that had 5 interceptions a year ago. He had 2 pick sixes. So on the inverse of what I'm saying about being opportunistic, being able to turn them over and get turnovers early and often, you need to make sure also Sellers is not doing that as well. I think one of the ways to do that is trying to get the ground game going. Maybe you see some sort of package for Robbie Ashford. I was shocked that he didn't go in at all last game. You don't want to, do anything to damage LaNorris Sellers' confidence. But I do think that if you need to have a go-to person to get, especially on 3rd and short, that's where you struggle the most, and that's where you cannot struggle. Like there's multiple times in the first half alone when you hit 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and you only gain 2 yards. 3rd and 4, you only gain 3 yards, right? And you're running a lot of RPOs and like in QB reads, like zone reads. I think that you get Ashford involved as well, because at the very least, get a spark going for this offense. At the very least, you need a spark going for this offense. So that is all for today's episode. We will have more, obviously, this week. We'll preview Kentucky, continue to preview Kentucky as we get closer to the game. That is pretty much it. I appreciate you guys joining along. Thank you for everyone that watched the overreaction video. It has it's the most views that we've had since I've been on the channel, which has been really cool. Appreciate all the comments and everything like that. Give me your feedback. Give me some score predictions and questions you have going in for Kentucky as well, either on social media with Locked On SC as our Twitter, or with me, Vern Funquist CFB, on Twitter and Instagram as well. I appreciate you all very much. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. I will talk to you all